Welcome back to all my subscribers, and hello to all of you that are just tuning into my channel for the first time. First off, I would like to say a quick thank you to all my subscribers that have left very supportive, encouraging, as well as inquisitive comments. You really inspire me to continue my mission to bring you the true history we've all been denied. My only ask is that you continue to share this information with as many people as possible. There's an old adage that says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I say this because there are some folks that will never be able to accept this information once they come to the realization and understanding that white skin alone did not always equate to wealth, intelligence, wisdom, royal heredity, creativity, inventiveness, and knowledge. When one becomes aware of the fact that much of what we were taught was reappropriated from people with darker skin complexions, it evokes certain emotions. For some that are comfortable in their steadfast beliefs, I'm sure this information leaves them feeling bewildered, frustrated, confused, angered, and also saddened. Yet for others, there may be feelings of enlightenment, validation, corroboration, satisfaction, and joy. And yet still for others, betrayal and victimization. You may actually have experienced a combination of these feelings. Personally, as I research these topics, I've had many of these emotions and feelings, which is one of the reasons I started my research journey, which ultimately led to the creation of this channel. A channel dedicated to rediscovering our true history. When I say our true history, I mean for all of us, regardless of skin complexion. Now, there have been quite a few commenters that have stated, I don't care about skin complexions, what's the big deal? The big deal is that we all have been lied to about our history. I, for one, don't appreciate being lied to. For those that have benefited from their complexions because it allowed them unlimited access and opportunity, I'm sure they aren't as bothered by the lies. However, for individuals that have darker complexions, they may feel some type of way because they are, for the most part, whether they want to admit it or not, affected in a negative way. Negative meaning no access or much less access to things such as jobs, healthcare, education, business opportunities, financial loans, ownership in sports, ownership of news outlets, access to real estate, etc. I don't know if you realize this, but every time you hear in the news that there was another first, meaning the first time a person of color, aka black person, has held a position in some company or elected office. That is a clear indication of the extent of discrimination based on skin color that has occurred and continues to occur based on complexion or assumed ethnicity. Not being allowed to openly compete in all areas I previously mentioned for decades due to Jim Crow laws and policies that were passed legislatively and then later on due to societal norms was flat out wrong. Then to research and find out this underhanded discrimination and systematic deceit only came about after certain wealthy families and foundations in the early 1900s took it upon themselves to shape world education into what they thought was right. Now that pisses me off. So I said all that to say, this research which rediscovers lost information is extremely important to me and many others. These videos, for those individuals with at least some ability to show empathy coupled with an analytical mind that would want to attempt to understand information that seems contrary to what we've been taught. All right, so let's get to what this video is all about. How did America's wealthy elite rewrite world history? And this is part one. Now, I hope that many of you that are watching now have previously watched my video, How Eugenics Erased Black History, because what I'm going to show you now is information that will deepen your understanding of how our history was changed. And not just that, how was this information changed on a mass scale and how that was even possible? We all know, based off my previous videos, which wealthy families were involved in eugenics being pushed and implemented in the United States and around the world. However, in this video, I'm going to focus on the Rockefeller family because they played a gigantic role in rewriting the history of not only the United States, but of the world. I'm going to show you several of the schemes that were used to pull it off. Let me also reiterate some of the main points that were covered in my last video called How Eugenics Erased Black History. It is a must that you watch my previous video so you can segue into this current video with the knowledge necessary to fully comprehend and appreciate what I'm about to reveal to you. All right, so let's go to the website called resources.rockarc.org. This website is maintained by the Rockefeller Archive Center. What I realized is this webpage, run by the Rockefeller Archive Center, is telling on itself. They are letting you know exactly what they did to influence education. That said, you can only put it together if you have all the pieces. I believe I accomplished that in my last video, How Eugenics Erased Black History. I produced this video, as I stated earlier, to deepen your understanding of how it was accomplished. We are going to look at the page with the heading Arts and Culture Global Engagement, and then the subheading Preserving Scholarship During World War II, the Rockefeller Foundation, Libraries, and Microphotography. This information was authored by Barbara Shabinsky and Teresa Lacobly. All right, so the title of the first paragraph is called Progress Through Understanding. I'm going to read this paragraph and then I'm going to analyze it. And it goes on to read, when the Rockefeller Foundation reorganized in 1928, it not only changed its administrative infrastructure, but adopted a new guiding principle, the advancement of knowledge. This broad maxim undergirded the creation of academically oriented divisions within the foundation and gave program officers relatively free rein to identify and cultivate cutting-edge research. The plan's aim, as Rockefeller Foundation President Raymond Fosdick later explained, was, quote, progress through understanding, end quote, particularly regarding humanity's most perplexing, intractable social problems. In the 1930s, the Rockefeller Foundation greatly expanded its works in the humanities, moving from classical interests to initiatives that broadened the scope of the humanities program and aspired to reach larger audiences. RF support for libraries and museums provided an important bridge between scholarly and popular audiences. Okay, so let's look at the first paragraph. Again, hopefully, you've already watched my previous video, How Eugenics Erased Black History, because if you had, that means you know that John D. Rockefeller and his son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., were ardent eugenicists steeped in white supremacist ideology. They wanted to selectively breed only humans that were genetically superior Nordic people. They wanted all others sterilized out of existence. The Rockefellers committed large sums of their wealth towards negative eugenics programs within the United States, Europe, and many other countries. So, do you see where I just read the Rockefeller Foundation new guiding principle was, quote, advancement of knowledge, end quote? What kind of knowledge are they talking about? When you look at the word advancement in the dictionary, what does it mean? I Googled the word, and the dictionary from the Oxford Languages states, advancement, a noun, the process of promoting a cause or plan. So, the two words cause and plan stuck out to me. And why, might you ask? Because, in my opinion, the actual cause the Rockefellers were promoting at the time was eugenics, in particular, negative eugenics. Then the word plan was intriguing to me because there was a plan that enlisted the finances of many of the United States' wealthiest families. And these families helped found several eugenic foundations. One of the most influential was the Race Betterment Foundation. So, which wealthy families funded these foundations? Well, alongside the Rockefellers were Andrew Carnegie, Mary W. Harriman, John H. Kellogg, George Eastman, David and Edward Harkness, Russell Sage, Clarence Gamble, and James G. Haynes, just to name a few. The paragraph also mentioned that in the 1930s, the Rockefeller Foundation wanted to greatly expand their work in the humanities. So what are the humanities? Well, according to the National Humanities Center online website, quote, the humanities include the study of history, philosophy, and religion, modern and ancient languages and literatures, fine and performing arts, media and cultural studies, and other fields, end quote. What this shows you is that the Rockefeller Foundation wanted to influence not only the U.S., but many other countries. The paragraph says they want to reach larger audiences. In my opinion, this is how you get into the core of a society. Through history, philosophy, religion, languages, literature, arts, media, and cultural studies. This is how the Rockefeller Foundation was able to change societal thinking by building it back in the image they wanted to see. These eugenic foundations had to re-educate/indoctrinate the populations in all countries by whitewashing the humanities. But remember, in my opinion, if you change something in the United States, you have to also change it in other countries so the information won't conflict. This is why they were so invested in reaching out to all these countries by rebuilding their public libraries, university libraries, and archives. As it became accepted over time by society's influential people like presidents, state and local politicians, universities and colleges, and then by stifling and stamping out any challenges, the new information will eventually become the norm. Please know, just like corruption happens today, via large corporate donors or wealthy individuals, The money that was expended from these eugenic foundations and individuals was not just used to build the physical libraries and book collections, it was used to bribe the individuals that knew it was occurring. I can't prove it, but I know that there are paintings and books, sculptures, jewelry hidden away in places like the Vatican and other private collections that show the real rulers and families of Europe and early America, but I fear they will never see the light of day. Again, if you are a little confused as to what I'm discussing regarding eugenics, you must watch my video, How Eugenics Erased Black History. After watching that video, this information will make a lot more sense to you. Alright, so moving on to the next paragraph on the Rockefeller.org website titled Strengthening European Libraries. And it goes on to say, in the States, quote, the foundation staff continued work that began under the International Education Board, IEB, which had helped to rebuild Europe's libraries after the devastation of World War I. The Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris received several grants enabling it to complete its Catalogue Général and to improve its collection of periodicals which had suffered during the war years. In 1931, Oxford University received an exceptionally large grant of $2.3 million for the expansion of the Bodleian Library. Total humanities grants in that period were only about $700,000 per year, perhaps as a way to counterbalance the foundation's support for scientific projects at Cambridge. The expanded Bodleian was opened in 1946. The library had been pressed into emergency service during World War II, forcing an interruption in construction. Objects of value were stored in the library's underground levels, and the building served as a nerve center for the British Navy, a job which included use of the university's press to print naval codes. All right, so let's tackle this first paragraph. Do you see where it says the foundation staff continued the work that began under the International Education Board? Okay, so who was the International Board? I'm sure it was full of like-minded individuals. And what was this work that they spoke about? The work was, in my opinion, whitewashing. The article is also acknowledging that this work started after World War I, around 1918. Fast forward 13 years to 1931. Paragraph also says that more money was granted to the Bibliothèque Nationale to complete the Catalogue Général and to improve its collection of periodicals. Okay, so what was the Bibliothèque Nationale? According to Wikipedia, it was a national library of France, located in Paris on two main sites known respectively as Richelieu and François Mitterrand. It is the national repository for all that is published in France. See, once again, the Rockefellers had complete access and approval to add, or as they wrote, improve its collection of periodicals. In my mind, that means adding periodicals created in the United States by eugenic authors. And just as a side note, if you haven't seen it already, please watch my video, Vanishing Black History. It provides another aspect to uncovering the truth regarding how our rewritten history was deployed. All right, so back to the paragraph. What was this Catalogue Général they were paying to complete? The Catalogue Général in English means General Catalogue. So in 1931, they were referring to France's two repositories in their general catalogues. When I researched what the catalogs contain today via the official French website from the Bibliothèque Nationale, it states, by the way, I'm using Google Translate for this paragraph in French. And it goes on to say, the General Catalogue of the National Library of France, BNF, includes, in 2016, more than 13 million bibliographic reference records and nearly 5 million author records, names of peoples, communities, titles of works, subjects, etc. It is regularly enriched thanks to the bibliographic process of collections entered under the legal deposit by acquisition and donation, and to retrospective conversions of old catalogs. It describes and lists the documents stored or directly accessible on all BNF sites. Then, in bullet point form, it stated that the catalog specifically contained printed matter, such as books, periodicals, collections, sound documents, such as recordings, compact discs, audio cassettes, etc., animated images, such as video cassettes, video DVDs, etc., multimedia, electronic resources on media, such as CD-ROMs, game consoles, etc., and dematerialized, in parentheses, all types of content. The list continues with notated music, printed and handwritten, iconographic documents, drawings, prints, photographs, etc., cartographic documents, including maps, plans, atlases, etc., Objects including monetary objects, manuscripts and archival documents, and lastly, digitized documents. Do you see what I'm saying here, folks? Do you truly understand the scope of what they're doing? All right, let's move on to the second paragraph. It mentions that the Rockefeller Foundation gave Oxford Library an exceptionally large grant of $2.3 million for the expansion of the Bodleian Library, this being Britain's second largest library. It took 15 years to open that library, and they explained that it was used by the British Navy during World War II. It also says that they had to move objects of value to the underground levels for safety. So what exactly did they do there? Well, they say they used the university press to print naval codes. That may be true, but what else did they print? What that says to me is original items could be smuggled out, overpainted, reprinted, etc. No one would know. It was during the fog of war. That would have been the perfect opportunity. Okay, so moving on to the next section titled Microphotography for the Masses. And it goes on to read, new developments in library science were also funded by the Humanities program. The Rockefeller Foundation gave extensive support to the development of microphotography throughout the 1930s. Microphotography, the process of photographing books and documents and producing copies on 16 or 35 millimeter film to be read through enlarging machines, was seen as the best means of preserving important international collections and improving access to them. So, I don't know if you've ever seen microfiche or microfilm readers before. I'm probably dating myself a little bit here. Nonetheless, I used them in the public library when I was in grade school. Well, according to this section of the website, the Rockefeller Foundation funded new developments in library science. They gave extensive support to the development of microphotography throughout the 1930s. I was thinking to myself, why give that much money towards this particular pursuit? It's because according to the Rockefeller Foundation, they photographed books and documents and copied it over to film. They, quote, preserved important international collections, end quote. That means, once you photograph what they want people to see, not only the original version, but the whitewashed version is exactly what people will believe. That also means they put away the originals and only allow the doctored copies, i.e. microfilm, to be shown. This paragraph also says this process would improve access to them being the collections. So I asked myself, why would the Rockefeller Foundation want to improve access? I believe the foundation theorized the more people that read and viewed their whitewashed version, the easier it would be to spread the lies throughout Britain and the world. And so in the last paragraph it states, the Rockefeller Foundation gave the University of Chicago a grant in 1937 to set up its own microphotography lab. All right, here we go again, folks. Another microphotography lab to convert books and collections to film. Once again, it allows them to provide access to what they want you to see, the film, which is not the original collections that show the truth. The Rockefeller Foundation highlighted a section that states, microphotography provides the best present method for preserving copies of the masses of material required by scholars who work with rare books, documents, manuscripts, and newspaper files. It also enables the librarian serving them to make such materials accessible. It's funny because, as I've pointed out, these scholars that the Rockefeller Foundation wanted to assist were literally not working with rare books, documents, manuscripts, and newspaper files. They were working with the microfilm versions. Therefore, in my opinion, these scholars took the false information, wrote hundreds of papers, books, and articles which contained falsified information and passed it along to their students at university and colleges or people simply reading library books. All right, so just as a side note, have you ever researched something and thought you found the book you were looking for, only to realize that you were only able to find a second or third edition? I believe this is because many of the original first editions are hidden away, while the second editions and beyond created by the Rockefeller Foundation or some other eugenic organizations were readily available. Of course, this is not a rule, but it happens to me quite often. So, moving on to the next paragraph titled, Preserving the Past for the Future. Although the Foundation's most obvious mandate was to fund research and technology innovation with an eye toward the future, in 1936, Rockefeller Foundation staff stepped in to preserve historical documents jeopardized by war. Over the following decade, across the duration of World War II, the Foundation devoted more than $750,000 to the new technology of microphotography. Rockefeller Foundation grants enable the Library of Congress, the American Library Association, and the American Council of Learned Societies to microfilm books, periodicals, rare documents, and academic journals. The foundation initially embraced microfilm for its space-saving potential. It marveled that, quote, the whole of the New York Public Library's 3 million books could fit into the space now occupied by its catalog, end quote. But when rising fascism in Europe threatened to destroy an entire cultural heritage, the foundation quickly realized that microfilm might play a far more significant role protecting the raw materials essential to open inquiry and intellectual freedom. All right, so before I break down this section, let me quickly define these three entities and their functions. Please pay close attention to what they do. First, there is the Library of Congress, abbreviated LOC, according to their website, loc.gov. The Library of Congress is the largest library in the world, with millions of books, films, and video, audio recordings, photographs, newspapers, maps, and manuscripts in its collections. The library is the main research arm of the U.S. Congress and the home of the U.S. Copyright Office. As a side note, they do a whole lot more. This is just a very general description. All right, so the second entity is the American Library Association, abbreviated ALA. According to their website, ala.org, their mission is to provide leadership for the development, promotion, and the improvement of library and information services and the profession of librarianship in order to enhance learning and ensure access to information for all. They set the standards for librarians and their services. They are the oldest and largest librarian association in the world. Lastly, there is the American Council of Learned Societies, abbreviated ACLS. They were created in 1919. According to the ACLS website, the American Council of Learned Societies supports the creation and circulation of knowledge that advances understanding of humanity and human endeavors in the past, present, and future with a view toward improving human experience. Now that I've gone over these three entities, let's go back to the paragraph I previously read to you. Okay, so that first paragraph states, the Rockefeller Foundation had an eye towards the future. My question is, what kind of future? My guess, based on their interest, it was a future where white people hold all the power, prestige, and knowledge. The second part of the paragraph suggests the foundation, quote, stepped in to preserve historical documents, end quote. What they really did is use their money to handle and manipulate property owned by the public. Moving on to the second paragraph, the Rockefeller Foundation paid $750,000 to develop the new technology of microphotography. The grant money went to the United States main repository of information, the LOC, the Library of Congress, which holds some of the nation's most important books and documents. So basically, these three entities that I spoke about and defined work collectively using the Rockefeller Foundation money to, quote, preserve and protect, end quote, the country's most important historical documents. Do you see where I'm going with this information? The Library of Congress is a federal government institution, yet they are directly influenced and collaborate closely with the two nonprofit organizations above, the ALA and ACLS, both which were funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. Let's quickly look at the ACLS and how I believe they were one of the big factors in rewriting world history. They were created in 1919, directly after World War I and during the eugenics era. According to the ACLS's own website, under the heading Early Years, it goes on to state, ACLS was created in the wake of World War I as European statesmen sought to rebuild civil society's fractured international connections. In the spirit, leading humanities scholars set out to forge an international federation of academics that would foster collaboration to strengthen the field. Representatives from 10 learned societies established a coalition to represent the United States at a meeting to plan what became the Union Académique Internationale, or International Union of Academies, in spring 1919 in Paris. On September 19, 1919, delegates from 10 scholarly societies convened at the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in Boston. The group envisioned an organization that would represent American scholarship abroad while also tackling critical issues affecting the humanities at home, particularly the challenge of securing a place in the emerging research culture at U.S. universities. The new American Council of Learned Societies stated its mission as, quote, the advancement of humanistic studies in all fields of humanities and social sciences, and the maintenance and strengthening of the national societies dedicated to those studies," end quote. Those founding scholarly societies included a number of current members. That list includes American Academy of Arts and Sciences, American Antiquarian Society, American Economic Association, American Historical Association, American Philosophical Association, American Sociological Association, Archaeological Institute of America, and Society of Classical Studies. ACLS began awarding fellowships and grants to individual scholars in 1926. That year, drawing on funds from one of the Rockefeller philanthropies, the ACLS Committee on Aid to Research distributed grants of up to $300 each to 21 applicants, quote, "engaged in constructive projects of research and who are in the actual need of such aid and unable to obtain it from other sources," end quote. According to the ACLS.org website, among the most instrumental funders in the first 50 years of our existence were the Bollingen Foundation, Carnegie Corporation, Ford Foundation, and the Rockefeller Foundation. I don't know about you, but common sense tells you that they would only commit that huge amount of money to an organization that paralleled their thought pattern and purpose. You can also see that their reach was global. Who do you think made up these United States historical societies? I'll tell you, former students and faculty from elite universities that were steeped in eugenic ideology. The Rockefeller Foundation at that time was spreading their money to all the critical entities that controlled intellectual thought and the repositories of knowledge. Basically, what I'm saying is that when the foundation wanted to move in a direction, they created a foundation, a nonprofit organization, or committees along with mission statements that sounded universal and positive for all, but really masked their true agenda. The ACLS boasts a laundry list of learned societies and members from all over the world. Okay, so I got a little sidetracked, but I feel that it was needed to let you know who these organizations are and what they're about. After reading this last paragraph, and also based on the close ties between the United States eugenic movement and the German eugenic movement, I'm understanding that these eugenic foundations, of which the Rockefellers were integral to, not only collaborated and influenced Hitler before the war, but now I'm thinking they may have been working together during the war. Those of you that watched my last video, How Eugenics Erased Black History, should understand why I'm drawing this conclusion. All right, so let's take a look at how many organizations, nonprofits, committees, and foundations the Rockefellers are connected to so that you can see the extent of their influence. I'm going to list most of the entities the Rockefellers founded, funded, and heavily influenced. However, this is not an exhaustive list by any means. So the first one I'm going to list is the Standard Oil Company, founded by John D. Rockefeller. Standard Oil became one of the largest and most influential oil companies in the United States. Next, we have the Rockefeller Foundation, established by John D. Rockefeller Sr. The foundation is a major philanthropic organization that supports initiatives in public health, education, and scientific research. Next, we have Chase National Bank, now called J.P. Morgan Chase. The Rockefellers were significant shareholders and played a role in the banking sector through their association with Chase National Bank. Then we have Rockefeller Brothers Foundation, a philanthropic organization created by the Rockefeller brothers to address global challenges and promote sustainable development. After that, we have Asia Society. The Rockefellers played a role in founding the Asia Society, an organization focused on promoting understanding and collaboration between Asia and the United States. Moving on, we have the Council on Foreign Relations. The Rockefellers have had an historical connection to the CFR, an influenced think tank focused on U.S. foreign policy and international affairs. Then there is the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission, an organization promoting cooperation among North America, Europe, and Asia, had Rockefeller family members involved in its establishment. Moving on, we have the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. The Rockefellers were involved in the preservation and restoration of Colonial Williamsburg, which is an historic area in Virginia. Then we have the National Park Foundation. The Rockefellers have supported the conservation efforts and initiatives related to the national parks in the United States. All right, moving on, we have the Museum of Modern Art, abbreviated MoMA. The Rockefellers have been associated with the Museum of Modern Art, which contributes from various family members supporting the arts. All right, so then we have the Rockefeller Center, a complex of commercial buildings and entertainment venues in New York City. The Rockefeller Center was developed by the Rockefeller family and remains an iconic landmark. I realize this is a long list, but I really want you to understand the influence and involvement and persuasion that the Rockefellers have had on this country and the world. All right, so moving on, we have the United Nations, or the UN. The Rockefeller Foundation has been involved in supporting various initiatives and programs of the United Nations, particularly in the areas related to public health, agriculture, and economic development. Then we have the World Health Organization, or WHO. The Rockefeller Foundation has played a role in supporting global health initiatives, and its contributions have intersected with the goals and projects of the World Health Organization. Next, we have the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. The Rockefeller family has had connections with international financial institutions, and their influence has been felt in organizations like the International Monetary Fund. All right, so next we have the World Bank. The Rockefeller family has been associated with the World Bank, supporting projects and initiatives aimed at economic development and poverty reduction in various parts of the world. Then we have Global Impact Investing Network, or abbreviation GIIN. The Rockefeller Foundation has been involved in impact investing, and they have supported organizations like GIIN, which focuses on promoting investments that generate positive social and environmental impact. All right, moving on, we have the GAVI, the Vaccine Alliance. The Rockefeller Foundation has contributed to global health efforts, including support of GAVI, an international organization that works to improve access to vaccines in developing countries. All right, then we have the Global Philanthropy Forum. The Rockefeller family has been associated with the Global Philanthropy Forum, which provides a platform for philanthropists and social investors to discuss and collaborate on global challenges. After that, we have the Bilderberg Group. The Bilderberg Group is an annual conference of influential individuals from politics, finance, and academia. Members of the Rockefeller family have attended Bilderberg Group meetings. All right, next we have the International Rice Research Institute, IRRI. The Rockefeller Foundation has played a role in supporting agricultural research globally, including its collaboration with IRRI, an international agricultural research and training organization. All right, folks, hang in there. I got a couple more here. And as I mentioned before, this family is involved in almost everything. All right, next we have the International House at the University of Chicago. John D. Rockefeller Sr. provided funding for the construction of the International House, a residence hall at the University of Chicago. It was designed to bring together students from different countries, fostering cultural exchange and understanding. And just as a side note, what kind of information do you think those students from different countries regurgitated when they returned to their home countries? This is what I'm showing you, folks. This is how that false information was disseminated throughout the world. All right, moving on. The University of Chicago. John D. Rockefeller was a major benefactor of the University of Chicago, contributing significant financial support. The Rockefeller Chapel at the university is named in his honor. All right, moving on, and this may be a little surprising, Rockefeller University. Originally known as the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, this institution in New York City was founded by John D. Rockefeller and has been dedicated to biomedical research and graduate education. Next, again, you may be a little shocked, Spelmen College. The Rockefeller family has supported Spelmen College, a historically black liberal arts college for women in Atlanta, Georgia, through the Rockefeller Foundation. All right, here's another side note. You may be asking yourself, wait a minute, I thought the Rockefellers were proponents of eugenics, i.e. racism. Yes, they most certainly are. However, how do you get a group of people to regurgitate a false narrative? Well, you give large amounts of money to an institution, influence the curriculum, that institution trains hundreds of women to be teachers, and thereby they will go forward upon graduation to teach the children the information you indoctrinated them with. Quite diabolical, I know, but very practical and efficient. All right, so moving on with our list, we have Harvard University. The Rockefeller family has had connections with Harvard University, and various members of the family have been involved in supporting educational initiatives at Harvard. Then you have the Rockefeller University Press. In addition to the research institution, the Rockefeller University Press publishes scientific journals and contributes to the dissemination of research findings. All right, winding down, we have Teach for America. The Rockefeller Foundation has supported Teach for America, an organization that recruits and trains teachers to work in underserved communities. Here we go again, folks. How do you get a community to believe something? Well, that's easy. You just train the teachers, right? All right, next we have the Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy. Part of the State University of New York, SUNY, the Rockefeller College has been named in honor of the Rockefeller family and has a focus on public affairs and policy. Next, we have Yale University. Like Harvard, the Rockefeller family has had associations with Yale University, and they have made contributions to support academic endeavors at the university. Next, we have the Population Council. Founded by John D. Rockefeller III in 1952, the Population Council is an international nonprofit organization that conducts research in reproductive health and population issues. All right, moving on, we have the Aspen Institute. The Aspen Institute is an international nonprofit organization that fosters leadership and promotes open-minded dialogue. The Rockefeller family, through various foundations, has supported the Aspen Institute's programs and initiatives. The Rockefeller family, particularly through the Rockefeller Foundation, has made significant contributions to various humanities disciplines by supporting research, education, and cultural initiatives. While they may not have directly created humanities disciplines, their philanthropy has played a crucial role in advancing and promoting knowledge in these areas. I'm going to share 8 examples with you. The first one is medical humanities. The Rockefeller Foundation has been involved in supporting medical research and education, contributing to the field of medical humanities. This interdisciplinary field explores the intersection of medicine, ethics, literature, history, and cultural studies to enhance the understanding of healthcare and medical practices. Number 2, social sciences. The family's philanthropic efforts have also extended to the social sciences, including sociology, anthropology, and political science. Through various initiatives, they have supported research programs and contributed to a deeper understanding of human societies and behavior. Number 3, cultural studies. The Rockefeller family has been associated with cultural institutions and initiatives fostering the study of art, literature, and cultural practices. Their support for museums, art galleries, and cultural organizations has contributed to the development of cultural studies. Number 4, environmental humanities. As part of their commitment to environmental conservation and sustainability, the Rockefeller Foundation has supported research and initiatives in the environmental humanities. This involves exploring the relationship between humans and the environment, combining insights from disciplines such as history, philosophy, literature, and ecology. All right, number 5, philosophy and ethics. The Rockefeller Foundation has funded programs related to philosophy and ethics, contributing to discussions on moral and ethical considerations in various fields. This support has included funding for academic research, conferences, and initiatives exploring ethical dimensions in science, medicine, and society. All right, number 6, humanities centers programs. The Rockefeller Foundation has supported humanities centers and programs at universities and research institutions. These centers often focus on interdisciplinary research, fostering collaboration between scholars and various humanities disciplines. Number 7, international research and cultural exchange. The family's philanthropic efforts have supported initiatives that promoted international understanding and cultural exchange, contributing to the enrichment of humanities. This includes support for museums, libraries, and cultural institutions. All right, last we have number 8, arts and cultural institutions. The Rockefellers have been involved in supporting various arts and cultural institutions, contributing to the preservation and promotion of humanistic values through initiatives in visual arts, performing arts, and literature. I'm sorry, I was wrong. There were actually 9. The last one is educational initiatives. The family's contributions to educational institutions, as mentioned earlier, extended to the humanities departments within universities. This support helps to sustain academic programs, research, and scholarly activities in the humanities. Again, as a side note, I want to make this clear. This was not an exhaustive list. The Rockefellers, as well as many other wealthy families and foundations, were also funding these entities. The Rockefeller Foundation, on their own website, admitted they had no oversight. Both American and foreign governments allowed them to create and label whatever they wanted. And sadly, this false information was and is regarded as fact. During the early 1900s up into the late 1950s, presidents and congressional members that graduated from universities and colleges that taught this false narrative allowed these foundations and nonprofit entities access to the country's most precious documents and historical artifacts. Government institutions were supervised and staffed by individuals graduating from these colleges and universities, which were operated under the ideology of eugenics. This, folks, is how history was changed, and their plan has worked very well. However, the one thing the originators of this plan did not foresee is the internet. The internet platform has allowed us to share information which has opened up so many individuals' minds. Not with stories, but with facts and sources. I'm not sure if some of you remember the old saying, the devil is in the details. This rings very true to the research that I'm exposing you to. Unfortunately, now that the damage has been done, these organizations and entities pretend that their deeds are harmless and in the past. The problem with that is, these institutions that were created and the generations they influenced have enduring legacies not only in the United States, but in almost every other country. Systematic racism permeates almost every institution I can think of. According to Edwin Black's book, War Against the Weak, the eugenics ideology changed to the term genetics and continues to flourish with new financial infusions from a variety of sources, including individuals who knowingly sign up and pay money to find out who they are. These organizations I've covered are no different than the banks like JP Chase and others that have helped to facilitate the slave trade. For years, they have acted as if they have done nothing wrong until someone dug up the information and exposed them. For years, there were scandals where they condoned discriminatory practices affecting black people. Have they righted the wrongs? No, they haven't. My point here is, whether it's historic banks, national and international universities, nonprofit organizations, created in the early to mid-1900s by wealthy white families, they all colluded to commit horrible acts that reverberate today. And yet they have done nothing to right the wrongs. All right, folks, this has been part one of a multi-part series explaining how the wealthy elite were able to rewrite our history. I will leave you with this. People deserve to know their true history and legacy.